So many of the times our expectations are driving us in a certain scenario. We focus so much on life in what we want to be as opposed to who we want to be. What happens in society is that we're clouded by the noise of family expectations, the noise of our parents, the noise of our brothers and sisters' expectations.
You can't be what you can't see. If I never saw a monk, I would never have wanted to be a monk. If I never meet a billionaire, I wouldn't want to be one. Because I wouldn't know what that feels like. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it takes. And I think that's the biggest challenge of our society, that we're not exposed. We meet people who are just like us most of the time.
I grew up in a family where you could either be a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure, right? Those were my three options. Anything else would just count me as a failure. I would have failed. So basically I failed, right? I'm standing up here in front of you all as a failure. I lived as a monk for 3 years. I committed career suicide. I turned down 2 amazing corporate job offers when I graduated from business school. I shaved my hair, I wore robes, and lived out of a gym locker for 3 years. And I did that because I thought I was going to do something meaningful, help impact the world. And it was one of the best experiences in my life. Because we've always been told that life and jobs and careers are like boxes and containers. There's only a finite number of options. There is no formula, there is no pattern. If you know what you're passionate about, if you know what you're good at, and you invest in that. People say follow your passions, I say forget that, invest in your passion. Who comes up with this stuff? I have no idea. People say you can't change your career at 30, that's when you're meant to be settling down. Oh my God, you're not married at 38? What the hell are you doing with your life? You can't change your career at 35, you should have had it figured out by then. But this stuff plagues so many people that I speak to. So many people open up to me and say, Jay, I just don't know how to change. Is it possible?
And we talk about this in business all the time. If you want to be a billionaire, spend time with billionaires. If you want to be a millionaire, spend time with millionaires. If you want to be a tech startup, spend time with, that's the common rhetoric that we hear all the time. But what if you want to find purpose and master the mind? There's no one better than a monk who's mastered the mind. So for me, the first step is just opening yourself up to new experiences and new role models. Because most of us can't see ourselves in people, so then we try and fit ourselves into the boxes that we do see.
But more than becoming a monk, what that trained me to do was drop out with the rules. People told me, if you come back in 3 years, you'll never get a job. They told me, if you become a monk, people are gonna think you weird forever. No girl's ever gonna talk to you.
I've always had friends who are older than me. And I could see a lot of them in the most successful careers, successful jobs, beautiful partners, whatever it was. But I saw a sense of lack of fulfillment, meaning, and purpose in their lives. And I've always been an observer, and I would see these people who are like 5 years older than me, 7 years older than me, maybe 10 years older than me. And I'd be watching them and go, is that the life I want? And often the advice I give to people today is fast forward where you are, look at yourself in 10, 15, 20 years time, and ask yourself the question, is that where I want to be? If you're in a startup, look at where other startups have got to in similar roles and go, is that where I want to be? If you're in a company, look at the person who's 20 years ahead of you and ask yourself, is that where I want to be? And if the answer is no, then you need to find a new path. After that, my parents or society or the university I went to or the community I had that was carving out for me. And for me, the answer at that time from observing was no. It didn't feel like the path for me. So I was almost seeking an alternative or a new path.
If you're passionate about something, go and become the best at it. Go and do a course on it. Go and learn from the best. Go and find a mentor who's going to make you incredible at that trade. Not only will you be criticized and grow, you'll be able to find new things about yourself that you never knew. Don't trade who you are for who you think the world needs, because the world needs you to be you, and I mean that.
See, we live in echo chambers. We're just surrounded by the same thinking. I mean, there's this beautiful quote that I've been saying it everywhere. It's by a philosopher and writer named Cooley. And he said that today, I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. My identity is made up by what my college or university thinks I should achieve. So we live in this perception of a perception of ourselves. Hence, my identity is made by what my parents think I should be. While you're living in that bubble and that echo chamber, getting to what you really want to do is impossible. Because maybe that just doesn't fit. And I think so many people feel that way today, that they don't fit into the current education system. They don't fit with the 3 or 4 or 5 careers that you're taught exist.
Sometimes we look at pieces in our lives that don't make sense. The key is what we do in our times of pain. Pain will change us. Every painful time, even though you don't like it, it's developing something in you that can only be developed in the tough times. Eventually, that will pass. You'll get through it, but you will be different. In those tough times, when you're uncomfortable, going through a loss, dealing with an illness, you could easily let it overwhelm you. Now, how the pain changes you is up to you. You can come out bitter, or you can come out better. You can come out defeated, giving up on your dreams, or you can come out with a new passion, a new fire, excited about the new opportunities in front of you.
I'm not interested in your reality right now. I want you to get back to your dreams. I want you to get back to your goals, because no matter what is happening in life, you got another 30 years, another 40 years, another 50 years, like you can't get stuck on. Look, I want you to look at your goals, and I want you to ask yourself this question. Do you know what it takes to make that happen?
Now, the self is everything you could be across time. So imagine that there's you and there's the potential inside you, whatever that is, you know. And potential is an interesting idea because it represents something that isn't yet real, yet we act like it's real. Because people will say to you, you should live up to your potential. And that potential is partly what you could be if you interacted with the world in a manner that would gain you the most information, right? Because you build yourself out of the information in the Piagetian sense. But it's deeper than that too, because we know that if you take yourself and you put yourself in a new environment, new genes turn on in your nervous system. They encode for new proteins. And so you're full of biological potential that won't be realized unless you move yourself around in the world into different challenging circumstances, and that'll turn on different circuits. So it's not merely that you're incorporating information from the outside world in the constructivist sense. It's that by exposing yourself to different environments, you put different physiological demands on yourself all the way down to the genetic level, and that manifests new elements of you.
If you change your ways, I'll give you far more than you ever lost. Look at your life right now. If you want to keep on getting what you're getting, keep on doing what you're doing. You've got to be willing to change your ways. Your life is working. If you don't like what you have produced, you're a director, you are the star, you wrote this script. You produced this, whatever it is. If it's a hit, you produced it. If it's a flop, you produced it. Take ownership of it and decide to go back to the drawing board and rewrite the script that you are the star of.
I will try 100 times to get up, and if I fail 100 times, if I fail and I give up, do you think that I'm ever going to get up? No. If I fail, I try again and again and again. For as long as I try, there's always that chance of getting up.
Never means under no circumstances do you give yourself permission to stop. I mean, it might cross your mind, you might be tempted, but you never give in to the temptation to quit. All quitting is a temptation, and you gave into it.
There is always an upgrade tied to your pain. Your tears have not been cried in vain. Your effort is not in vain. So when you encounter a major setback, if you encounter a major roadblock, say to yourself, wow, something huge must be on the way. Elevation requires patience and endurance because it often comes packaged in the form of pain. As you get closer to your breakthrough, it may begin to look like everything is falling apart.
You gotta have that mindset that quitting is not an option. Give up? Who, me? Never. Stop? Who, me? Never. That's for the next guy. That's for the next girl. But not me. Why? Because I don't quit. That ain't how I do it. That ain't how I roll. I never give up.
Everyone encounters difficulties. Everyone has issues. There is no easy road. It does not exist. It is impossible. We all go through hard times. We all go through depression. We all go through doubt and then moments in your life where it's really difficult. It's hardish, but that is what makes you a person. When you come up with excuses for why other people are successful and you're not, it's dangerous. And those difficult moments are what build your character.
You will cry. It's some stuff that will happen in your life that will make you cry. It's okay. It's a part of the deal. If you can't handle pain, you don't want success.
If you're not struggling and getting disappointed from time to time, this probably means that you're not really pushing your limits too far. But I'll tell you something, life has a funny way of closing doors in order to keep you moving in the right direction. We run from pain. We do everything we can to protect ourselves and to shield ourselves from feeling uncomfortable with that feeling of pain. We do this to not feel the pain, but I'm saying stop running, stop trying to mask it.
The key is what we do in our times of pain. Pain will change us. Heartache, loss, disappointments, they don't leave us the same. You'll get through it, but you will be different.
And you won't have to fight and fight and fight and fight. And most of you won't be successful, not because you can't do it, but you can't outlast your old you to get to your new you.
Now, how the pain changes you is up to you. You can come out with a chip on your shoulder, blaming, or you can come out stronger. You can come out bitter, or you can come out better. You can come out defeated, giving up on your dreams, or you can come out with a new passion, a new fire, excited about the new opportunities in front of you. All of us experience pain. Don't just go through it, grow through it.
And what I'm here to tell you is, if you tell that thing, I'm here just like you here, and I promise you, I ain't leaving without the degree. I will not leave without that goal. I will not leave without that dream. I will not leave this job. I will not leave this client. I will not leave this university until I'm successful, until I get it.
So many people in the world take life for granted instead of realizing that you have to take the opportunity to live it the best way you know how. Now, on this journey of life, you're gonna face a significant amount of circumstances, a significant amount of challenges. You're gonna fall into areas that you cannot understand. And maybe it's not in a position for you to understand life. That you are in a hopeless situation. You may come to a point in your life where you're at the end of a rope. And the only thing left to do is to climb up. Because you only can do so much for so long. But make sure you're doing much more instead of doing less. When you start to feel that you are in a position that you don't love your life, then shame on you. Because your life is a beautiful thing.
When you feel pain, disappointment, it's okay. Don't try and cover it up. What you should do is actually embrace it. That the pain is normal, it's natural, it's a part of the growth process. Learn from it. Once you do, you accept it, you embrace it, put it in its place, you're going to be able to move forward stronger, faster, smarter.
Every belief that you have is a choice. The questions you ask yourself will determine the course of your life.
The key to immortality is first living a life worth remembering. I know a lot of people struggle with self-worth, and I wish that there was an easy answer to tell you it is enough to simply be alive. That being a person makes you valuable and will give you the self-worth that you want. There's no way to stumble and fumble through life hoping that it will somehow add up to something that makes you feel good inside. When there's no noise, when there's no distractions, when there's nothing but the sound of your own voice in your head, what are you saying? Do you believe in yourself? Do you know you can do it?
My parents' biggest frustration was that I was epically lazy, and if they handed out gold medals for being lazy, I would have won. I was a slightly chubby kid growing up in a morbidly obese family in Tacoma, Washington. I always knew two things about myself. One day I was going to be rich, and I was going to have six-pack abs. Like, those are the two things, is that kid that was, jiggling his belly thinking, one day I'm not going to have to suck in my gut. I had been asking myself, what do I need to do to get rich? And it left me really unhappy. These two guys that were successful entrepreneurs and bodybuilders happened to walk into a class when I was a teacher. And they said, hey, we need a copywriter. Why don't you come be a copywriter? And I went all in. They literally put me in the room with all the computer servers. But starting from there, I knew I could wow people because I was willing to grind it out. When I left for college, my own mother, who had always been my biggest cheerleader, quietly assumed I was going to fail. My superpower may be the willingness and ability to endure suffering. I had suffered a lot. I hadn't taken a day off in like 6.5 years because I was so hell-bent to get rich.
The only thing that matters is what you think about you. And the only way to get that, the only way to get to a life that is worth living, that you will judge as worthy, is to put in the work. Have you put in the work? Because the reality is to become someone that you respect. It doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks. You could very much have the love and adoration of every person on this planet and still hate yourself.
And then I realized I had hit my breaking point. Almost 8.5 years in, I'd finally had enough from suffering, and I got so mad and I was so unwilling to do it anymore, and I turned to my partners and I say, I'm completely miserable, I quit. Along the way, I had become so myopically focused on this promise I'd made to myself as a kid that I never stopped to ask, why do I want to get rich?
Remember, skills have utility. The only reason for self-improvement is to be able to do something with it, to create something with it. Or are you afraid of what others think? Are you afraid that you might fail? Are you worried that you're going to embarrass yourself? Are you worried that you will achieve glorious heights only to fall? Are those the things that dictate the life you live? Are those the things that keep you small? Because if they are, you're that person that no matter how much other people love you, you're never going to love yourself.
Life is too short. This is your one go-round. So what are we going to do?
And at the end of the day, that is the only thing that matters. How do you feel about yourself when you're by yourself?
I started thinking about my uncle who ate himself to death when I was 12 years old. I started thinking about my mom and my sister. But they were profoundly overweight, and how much that scared me, and it made me sad. And it made me sad to see that there were millions, if not more than 1 billion people that were in the same kind of abusive relationship with food that my mom and my sister were. So I said, I don't know if it's a big business, but I know it's a big problem. And that's the problem that we're going to solve. And so we decided to build a totally new kind of company. I was wearing a hairnet and a lab coat every day, and my employees were felons, ex-drug dealers, former gang members. We were in Compton, and we literally told everybody in the neighborhood, I don't care if you've been convicted of a crime. I just want to know if you're willing to bust your and I'm not going to ask for your resume. I don't care about your resume. Your resume tells me where you've been. It doesn't tell me the price you're willing to pay to become somebody new.
At the end of the day, you have to earn that self-worth. You have to decide what is a life that's worth remembering. What is a life that's going to give you that sense of self? What are you going to have to do to earn that? Because you have to earn that.
I choose to believe that human potential is nearly limitless, and this was the belief that changed my life. Because once I realized, so it's not about who you are today, it's about who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there. And I promise you, the day that you're willing to pay any price, you'll achieve what you want to achieve.
Create something that matters to you, and in doing that, in becoming the best version of yourself, then you're truly living a life worth remembering.
Life is simply too short and unpredictable to not live exactly the way that you please. It is ridiculously unpredictable. It is possible that on any given day to die at any point. If you're living a life that you would not be okay with losing because you weren't able to do things you wanted to do, then now you know that you need to change something.
While you're over here living the life of your dreams and complete happiness, guess where they're gonna be? That's right. They'll be failures, the real failures. Over there where it's safe, scared to fail. Ironic, isn't it?
You know, a lot of people come up to me and they ask me, Marco, what is it that motivates you most? And to answer their question, I reply back with a question. I say, what if I told you that you had 1 week left to live? Would you regret not spending as much time with your family, friends, or loved ones? Would you regret not pursuing your dreams, passions, and desires? Would you regret not living your life to the fullest? I feel like education will always be here for me to come back to, whether I'm 20, 25, 40, or whatever. And I think that I have an amazing idea, vision, passion, and drive now in my peak, and that I'm able to capitalize on, which makes me feel like I'm throwing it away if I don't pursue it. And the biggest response that I've been getting recently is, Marco, what if it fails? Which, I mean, yeah, like, what if it fails? But that's the whole point of taking a chance with things like startup companies or entrepreneurship. It's ridiculously high risk. Like, what if I lose my wallet? Or better yet, what if this succeeds? Like, what if I get hit by a car? You know, it's easy to be negative or to be closed-minded, but I think it's easier to be optimistic and to be open-minded. And, you know, Steve Jobs said in a speech one time that he used to wake up every morning, look in the mirror, and ask himself questions like this. And he said that if the answer was yes for too many days in a row, then he knew that he had to change something. And that should go for all of us. You know, when I was 13, I had this teacher who was an absolutely amazing person. I'd known him for several years. He had 2 kids, a loving wife. He was a man of God, contributed to the community. He gave us everything that he had. I always remember him come to school on his bike, and one morning on his way to school, it was early in the morning, he was crossing an intersection. A reckless driver comes out of nowhere, hits him, he dies on the spot, on the moment of impact. His death taught me so many valuable things in life. It went on to show, and no matter what your situation is, that no matter how much you don't deserve to die, and no matter how good of a person you are, no matter anything, it goes to show that death is inevitable and random, and it will eventually consume each and every single one of us, whether it's in 50 years, in 10 years, next year, or even tomorrow. You cannot control it. The people around you cannot control it. If you're living a life that you would not be okay with losing because you weren't able to do things you wanted to do, then now you know that you need to change something.
See, a lot of people, because they don't want to make any mistakes, it takes us to the next level. A lot of people don't want to fail. Fear of success, fear of failure, and guess what else? Fear of the unknown.
Most people don't live their dream. Most people don't reach their dream, not because of failure, because they give up. You see, it's not the failure that stops us, but that most stop at their first failure. Those who succeed don't stop at one failure. They don't stop at 100, 1,000, or 1,000,000. They say, this is my goal, and I will do whatever it takes to achieve it. I will learn faster. I will learn the lessons from any failures. I will work smarter. I will work harder. And I will not quit until my dream is a reality.
Being scared to fail in life would literally keep me from failing. I would look at the losers around me and I would say, sheesh, I never want to turn out like him. I really believed this train of thought would help me succeed. Until one day, I was walking down the street and I saw an old man. Had a hat, suspenders, and a cane. He was about 80 years old. This old man was barely walking. He could walk, but the cane helped a lot. He was struggling. He was walking across the street and he ended up falling. So I went over to go help him. Says thank you, and we introduced ourselves. Had a little conversation. Told me his name and I told him mine. His name was Robert, by the way. And right as he walked away, I told him, this is what I said. Robert, you should stay inside where it's safe, my friend. And Robert turns around and says to me, I love walking. And I love walking way more than I'm afraid of falling. Don't you want to live? What about your safety? And he told me this. These are the exact words he said. He said this. Solo, living means doing what you love to do. And if I had to fall here and there to do what I want to do in life, then so be it. And he just walked away. That's when I realized the true key to success. But after that day, I realized something. I realized it's the love for success that will lead me to succeeding. You see, I always thought if I could just fear the act of failing, and if I fear it like crazy, I will succeed. Because I thought the fear would magically motivate me to get out there and start taking action. He loved walking so much, he was willing to fall 10 times a day just to do it. And you have to be the same. So the next time someone tells you, you're gonna fail, you know what you tell them? Tell them they're right. You're not afraid to jump. But you're not afraid to fail. You're not afraid to take action. You're gonna fail 10 times, but you know what? It's cool. Because on the 11th time, you'll succeed.
You know what Winston Churchill said about courage, Pat? He said courage is the ability to go from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm.
If you dream big and surround yourself with great people and have a little luck along the way and leave your ego at the door and share success with others, you can do anything. But there will be people along the way who will say to you, you know, you're dreaming too big. Those things just can't happen. It's not possible.
Could have convinced me when I started out just over 6 years ago working on my dream, and I want you to think about whatever your dream is, because I was willing to take a chance, and most people won't do that. Most of the people that you talk to try and bring them into the business, these are not risk takers. Most people have done all that they're ever going to do. They raise a family, they earn a living, and then they die. But people who are running toward their dreams, life has a special kind of meaning. And here's what I will share with you, that in the process of working on your dreams, you are going to incur a lot of disappointment. a lot of defeats, a lot of pain, a lot of failure, a lot of setbacks. But in the process of doing that, you will discover some things about yourself that you don't know right now. What you will realize is that you have greatness within you.
That the reason I'm here is I dream big dreams. I dream the kind of dreams that other people said would not be possible. I'm also living proof. This isn't a Hollywood movie. I come literally from the other side of the tracks. If you saw where I grew up and we took a picture of it, the neighborhood, the setting, you'd say it's impossible that someone could come from there and get here. But it is possible. Don't allow anyone, family, teachers, whoever it is, don't allow anyone to tell you that what you are dreaming for yourself and your family is not possible. It is possible. Don't be one of those people 20 years from now are going to be walking around in a 9-to-5 job, miserable and angry and bitter because you let your dreams get away from you.
How many of you have a dream? You got to go get it. Dreams don't happen on couches and they don't happen in bed. If you're going to realize that dream, you got to go out into the marketplace. You got to go through obstacles and barriers to where it's like, it doesn't even bother me anymore. You got to meet a new you. Most people simply never overcome their obstacles and their barriers. Most people simply starve between the idea and the execution. You take so long to get to execution. You got too much information and not enough action. We have more information available to us today than at any time in the history of the world. If you know you can make a difference, then you have to make a difference. First, you got to make a decision. Simple decisions. Will you expand or will you contract? If you know you can help, if you know you can do more, then you have to do more.
The actions of your life will echo into eternity. The question is, will that echo for you be a whisper into eternity or a roar? Your life matters. Listen to me. What you do in your life matters. You were born to do something great with your life. You were put here for a reason. All of our actions echo into eternity. Long after we're gone, our lives also have an echo.
You were born to do something special with your life. You're not average. You're not ordinary. You were born to do something extraordinary.
Which is to make a difference in the world. Which is to change your own family's dream. Which is to do something great with your life. I promise you, you were put here for that. In little ways and in big ways. And you get to decide based on the actions you take every day in your life, whether the life of you, whether it had a big meaning and it roars into eternity, or whether you play small and you just whisper into eternity.
Success is all in your DNA, and I would challenge you to live up to it. It is so much easier to run. It is so much easier to give up. It is so much easier to quit, give in. Your greatest hater is you. Your greatest hater is you. Your greatest fear is you.
I got tired. I got tired of being like giving 70 or 80% and not living the way I wanted to live. And this guy got tired. He started crying. He like, Shaq is winning. I see the Spurs winning. I see Chauncey Billups with his new team. I see other people winning and I'm not winning. And I want to be a winner. And I'm tired. And I got tired, y'all. So I did something about it. I woke up every day and started grinding. I was tired. I would stop looking at my wife. My wife was looking at homes. She looked at a home that was like $50 million. Like, what you looking at a $50 million house for? She like, goals. I'm like, what kind of goals? She like, you're gonna have to work a little harder.
I'm here to tell you, number one, that most of you say you want to be successful, but you don't want it bad. You just kind of want it. You don't want it bad and then you want to party. You don't want it as much as you want to be cool. Most of you don't want success as much as you want to sleep. Some of you love sleep more than you love success. And I'm here to tell you today, if you're going to be successful, you gotta be willing to give up sleep.
And I would just encourage you to give you a shot. Like you ain't never really gave you a shot. You know, like you've never given you a full year. You've never given you 365 days. You've never given you 120%. And I would just say to you, love you enough. You're beautiful. You have to understand how much you matter, not just to you, how much you matter to others. Right? And when you operate in your gift, not only do you liberate yourself, but you liberate others. I dare you to believe in yourself. I dare you to be courageous enough to deal with the real you and let the world see that unique, that gifted, that special person. You're unique. You're wonderfully made. You know, stop looking for other people to validate you. Your essence, your existence is validation enough. You're here, you're alive. And you force others to live a life that they never thought they could live. You be you and don't be nobody else. And you stop letting you get off the hook. You stop letting you get off the hook.
You may have been through a lot in your life. You may have been through hell in your life. Life has been given to you from a higher power, but hell doesn't own you. Hell did not create you. Something that you need to understand, that no matter who you are, in this world that we live in today, everyone must suffer. Everyone must struggle. But everybody that is going through something always has a story to tell.
Look at your life right now. If you want to keep on getting what you're getting, keep on doing what you're doing. As you look back on your life, you can decide that I don't like what I produced here, and I want higher ground. If you change your ways, I'll give you far more than you ever lost. You've got to be willing to change your ways. Your life is working. If you don't like what you have produced, you're a director, you are the star, you wrote this script. I want to begin to experience more love. I want to have more adventure in my life. I want something that gives my life a sense of meaning. You produce this, whatever it is. If it's a hit, you produced it. If it's a flop, you produced it. Take ownership of it and decide to go back to the drawing board and rewrite the script that you are the star of. You have the power to do that. On this day, you can declare. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been selected to head up a program called Project Life in Chicago, training thousands of kids. And I had the experience and to see the young people and the parents and the community volunteers when they went out, and to see these young people when they came in. One young man from the Cabrini Green housing projects who didn't want to be there, who came up and said, "I'll never be the same again." He said, "Thank you, Mr. Brown." He said, "I just got to go now, but thank you, sir. I'll never be the same again."
Most people that are successful right now had to go through something to get what they got to this day. Some people are not even willing to hurt and to feel that so that they get what it is that they want. But let's go beyond that. What about the people out there who can't talk? What about the people out there that are suffering from diseases that cannot be cured from? What about the other people out here who can't walk? What about you? What about you? What are you gonna do about the life you have? How far are you gonna go? How are you gonna live?
To see a letter I got from a young man who was in the Cook County Jail where I work on Monday morning. And this young man will not be out of jail for at least 50 years. At least 50 years. They gave him 100 years. This guy has shot at least 60 people that we know of and killed 10 at least. Over 70% of these young men are in there for murder. And this letter he wrote, he said, since listening to your tapes, he said, I have not changed, but I feel a different person in me. We wanted to have a two-pronged attack where we would train people on the outside and train those that are in the jails, because I believe if you cage them like animals and treat them like animals and they're out on the streets every 22 months, they're going to get out and act like animals and go back in like animals. So we said, let's take an approach. This gives me my life. This might be insane. But I felt so good. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, if we can accept the possibility of that this is the decade of consciousness. That's what I believe that this is. A time where we can begin to create in folks' minds the idea, the possibility that we can create the kind of respect for diversity and difference in our multicultural society. The possibility that we can create more love, communication, and understanding in relationships. The possibility that we can create a more humane society. The possibility that we can begin to develop the mindset to bring out the best in people, to encourage them to achieve their greatness and support them in their dreams. That if we can, in this decade of consciousness, to begin to see and envision that happening, that we were born for such a time as this, and that we all can play a role. That we showed up for this, that we survived 1 out of 9 million sperms, and we have been chosen for this great work. What an exciting time to be alive.
I don't know what your future is, but if you're willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory, then you will not regret it. For completing a long climb, one first experiences dizziness, disorientation, and shortness of breath due to the high altitude. But once you become accustomed to the climb, your mind opens up to the tranquility of the triumph. Oftentimes, the mind is flooded with realizations that were for some reason harder to come to when you were at a lower elevation. At this moment, most of you need some realizations, because right now you have some big decisions to make. Right now, I urge you, sometimes your grades don't give a real indication of what your greatness might be. For others, it was financial. You and your family struggled to make ends meet every semester of your matriculation. You had to stand in one line to get to another line, to get to another line for somebody that might help you. You had to work an extra job or two, but you're here. Your hardest struggle was social. Some of you never fit in. You were never as cool and as popular as you wanted to be, and it bothers you. So your social struggles here became psychological. Even though you made it up the hill, you carried the baggage of rejection with you, but you're here. Or some of you went through something traumatic. You made it to the top of the hill, but not without scars and bruises. Some of you fit in too much. You were literally too cool for school. You waited until the last minute to do your best work, and it's a wonder that you made it up the hill at all, because You carry the baggage of too much acceptance. So your organization and planning was impeccable. You received the majority of your demands, making a significant impact on those who came after you. Look down over what you conquered and appreciate what God has brought you through. Hear me well on this day. When you have reached the hilltop and you are deciding on next jobs, next steps, careers, further education, you would rather find purpose than a job or a career. Purpose crosses disciplines. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. When God has something for you, it doesn't matter who stands against it. I remember walking across this yard on what seemed to be a random day, my head down, lost in my own world of issues, like many of you do daily. I'm almost at the center of the yard. I raised my head and Muhammad Ali was walking towards me. Time seemed to slow down as his eyes locked on mine and opened wide. He's raised his fist into a quintessential guard. I was game to play along with him, to act as if I was a worthy opponent. What an honor to be challenged by the GOAT, the greatest of all time, for a brief moment. His face was as serious as if I were Frazier in The Thriller in Manila. His movements were flashes of a past greater than I can imagine. His security let the joke play along for a second before they ushered him away, and I walked away floating like a butterfly. I walked away amused at him, amused at myself, amused at life for this moment that almost no one would ever believe. I walked away light, ready to take on the world. That is the magic of this place. Almost anything can happen here. One that had no interest in my ideals and beliefs. How would I maneuver through all of this? Finally, I thought of Ali in the middle of the yard, in his elder years, drawing from his victories and his losses. At that moment, I realized something new about the greatness of Ali and how he carried his crown. I realized that he was transferring something to me on that day. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter in me. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter to me. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter to me. Sometimes you need to feel the pain and sting of defeat to activate the real passion and purpose that God predestined inside of you.
See what your strengths and weaknesses are. How do you approach the game? Are you silly about it? Are you goofy about it? Are you good at it just because you're bigger and stronger than everybody else? Dude, I always work on the things during those games that I was weak at, right? Or is there actually thought and skill that you put into it, right? And when I'd play to my weaknesses, right? So I have a strategy. Quickness, I was quick, but not insanely quick. I was fast, but not ridiculously fast, right? So I had to rely on skill a lot more. I had to rely on angles a lot more. I had to study the game a lot more. And but I enjoyed it though. So like from the time I can remember when I started watching the game, I studied the game and it just never changed. Right? I gotta get stronger. You have to do the hard stuff and watch that game and study that game to not make those mistakes over and over again. Every day, I mean, since 20 years, it was an everyday process and trying to figure out strengths and weaknesses. For example, jumping ability. Now my vertical was a 40, it wasn't a 46 or 45. My hands are big, but they're not massive, right? So you got to figure out ways to strengthen them. So your hands are strong enough to be able to palm a ball and do the things that you need to do. Ways to get better. There's certain things that you can figure out that you can take advantage of, right? Certain weaknesses that were exposed that you need to shore up. But the hardest thing is to face that stuff. You got to look at the reality of the situation. You know, like for me, it's not, you know, you kind of got to get over yourself, right? And then after that, it's okay, well, why did those air balls happen? There's a quote from one of my English teachers at Lower Merion named Mr. Fisk. He had a great quote that said, rest at the end, not in the middle. And that's something I always live by. I'm not going to rest, I'm going to keep on pushing now. There are a lot of answers that I don't have, even questions that I don't have. But I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll figure these things out as you go, right? And you just continue to build that way. So I try to live by that all the time. The love of the game, the challenge. Like I would watch Magic play, I'd watch Michael play, and I would see them do these unbelievable things, and I'd say, you know, can I get to that level? I don't know, but let's find out. Let's find out. You know, I had a summer where I played basketball around like 10, 11 years old, and here I come playing, and I don't score 1 point the entire summer. I remember crying about it and being upset about it. My father just gave me a hug and said, listen, whether you score 0 or score 60, I'm going to love you no matter what. Now that is the most important thing that you can say to a child. Because from there, I was like, okay, that gives me all the confidence in the world to fail. But to hell with that, I'm scoring 60. I stayed with it. I kept practicing, kept practicing, kept practicing.
People don't want to look at things for how they are. They want to look at things for how they want them to be.
Sometimes the solutions are very simple, even though the problems are very complex. It's very simple in that somebody will have a complex thing that comes from childhood, or maybe it's a drug background, or they've had trauma in their life. But the solution is change your behavior. I mean, stop rewarding bad behavior. Choose a different path in life. Just behave your way to success. Because at some point, you have to stop focusing on why and start focusing on what. Instead of why it happened, what am I going to do to change it? So sometimes the solutions are pretty simple.
We all have a personal truth. What we believe when nobody's looking and nobody's listening. Now, why is that important? Because we generate the results in life we believe we deserve. And here's the mistake that young people make. And I know this because I did it. You compare your personal truth to the kid sitting next to you's social mask. They put their best foot forward. They're all shiny faced and they look great. And that's their social mask. You compare your personal truth to it.
The difference between winners and losers is winners do things losers do not want to do. They will get up in the middle of the night. They will do this, they will do that. They just do things losers don't want to do. They'll pay a price losers just don't want to pay. And losers say it's just not worth it.
And every winner has been a loser.
If you go through life as in a success-only journey, God, how boring would that be? The problem that kids make, and because I know I did it, and is you compare your personal truth, what you know about yourself, and you know how you really live and what's really going on. You compare your personal truth to everybody else's social mask. And I know there was a big fight in my kitchen last night. I know that last night the windows got kicked out of my house. I know that the utilities got turned off. And the kid sitting next to me, he's got on a shirt that's all ironed and his face is all bright and clean, and you know, he looks like he's got it all together. And you compare yourself to that person, that kid, and you feel like you're second class. The problem with that is we generate the results in life we think we deserve. So if you think you're damaged, you think you're second class, you will generate results that you think a second class person deserves. So if you don't fix your personal truth, then you'll spend the rest of your life saying, well, you know, those really good results, those belong for somebody else. You'll settle for second best and you won't get what you might otherwise generate for yourself.
It just seems that people have they have this comfort in their patterns, and even if their patterns are self-destructive, even if it's drug abuse or alcoholism or the comfort in those patterns, falling into those patterns, it seems very compelling to a lot of people. That it's incremental changes over the long haul, and the way you have to look at it is if these two boats are going in a parallel direction and one of them just shifts 5 degrees, over the course of time, this boat is going to be in a far different place than the other boat that's going the same way it was always going. If you find a thing that you're good at, whether it's gymnastics or singing or painting, if you could find a thing that you're good at, it'll give you a feeling of self-worth. And you won't need to be good at everything.
Yeah.
You can accept and you can enjoy other people being good at things as well.
Find what you're good at a given time and do what you're good at.
Find something you love, find something you're passionate about and that you could also excel at. Expose yourself to different things.
Not everybody is meant to be an athlete, so okay, look, go do something else. Be good at what you're good at.
And if you really want to do it, well, you've got a long road. It's a greased hill.
Yeah.
Start running.
Everything's not for everybody. So find what you're good at and watch yourself achieve. They took students into class where they put the steps of learning the information so close together that there was never a failure experience. And they would teach it to criteria where you mastered the information, you had it 100%. And they said, wow, this is great. Everybody learned it, so everybody made 100. Everybody got the information. They truly did learn it. There was no question about it. They learned the information. And so they did great. And then they took them out of that program and put them back in the regular classroom. So they scrapped the whole program because they said, you can't do this because that's not the way life is.
I mean, the whole idea about school is you're supposed to be setting kids up for the future. You're supposed to be teaching them not just information, but teaching them how to learn and how to improve.
You're not teaching them how the real world works. Those kids were absolutely screwed up when they got into a truly competitive environment. It can't be success only. I'm a strong believer that a whole lot of mental illness comes living somebody else's decision for who you're supposed to be, from living an inauthentic life. Pain is going to cause you to move. It's going to cause you to change something. I don't think problems are simple at all. In fact, I think problems are really, most of the time, pretty complex, pretty layered. They have a lot of different origins. They're oftentimes comorbid. A lot of things exist together. So I don't think problems are simple at all. But the solutions are often simple. I was raised by an alcoholic father in a violent home. And when I say alcoholic and violent, I'm talking about you go home and they're kicking the windows out. That causes you to have a damaged personal truth. Do you have a damaged personal truth? Because if you do, you'll start self-medicating. If you do, you'll start pulling back and marginalizing yourself from society. You'll start generating second-class grades. You'll start generating results you think you deserve. And then you'll start numbing yourself with alcohol, cocaine, heroin. And what do you do instead? You repair your personal truth. You cannot legislate that everything is going to be equal for everybody, because everybody's not equal. They may be equal in terms of their value as a human being. They're not equal in creativity, but they're not equal in math skills. They're not equal in how fast they run. They're not equal. Everybody has their own value, but that doesn't mean their marketable skills in an open society, in an open market, are going to be the same.
But when I was 14, I was homeless because, my dad and I had to move to Kansas City, and he couldn't afford to take the rest of the family. And we got up there and things went really bad, and he had gone away. I got bored, depressed, and I was living on the street. Now, I'm from Texas. In Texas, if you've ever started to walk across an asphalt road in August, barefoot, I'm talking about hot, where you look out in the backyard and your dog burst into flame. Now, what are you going to do? You're either going to race forward or race back. You're not going to stand in one place and just melt. And that's what happened to me when I was depressed on the street. It caused me to change something. It caused me to become an agent for change in my own life.
I just think if you're in your life and you don't have something that you're passionate about, if there's not something where you wake up every day and there's nothing in your life that you're excited to do, man, you need to go back to the drawing board. I don't understand. It just seems like you got to find your own lane. So I got myself into a lane where I talk for a living. I read, I talk.
For me, everything starts with authenticity. I'm going to ask you some questions that I want you to take home with you and ask yourself. Are you doing what you're doing today because it's what you want to do? Or are you doing what you're doing today because it's what you were doing yesterday?
Because if all you're doing is just grinding it out, get up every day, go to a job you don't like, do tasks you don't care to do, and come home to a home you don't want to come home to, and wait to get up and do it again the next day, you're burning daylight. Find something. I don't care if it's gardening or music or art or athletics or something. Find something you're excited about.